There were 2 glasses of wine on the windowsill. Neither of them were mine. That's the first thing I noticed when I came back to get my coat. I had only left the party for 20 minutes. I needed air. I needed to not hear the sound of her laughing too loudly at her boss's joke, the one she already told me about 2 days ago in the kitchen while cutting sweet potatoes. So I stepped outside, walked down to the sidewalk, watched 2 taxis fight over a red light, and scrolled through an app one don't even like. I didn't storm out. I didn't slam a door. I just left quietly. No one saw me go. But when I returned, because I stupidly thought I left my wallet, it was like the room had rearranged itself. There were 2 wine glasses sitting side by side, fogged at the top, one of them still half full, her lipstick on the rim. And she wasn't anywhere near them. She was across the room again, pretending to not know I had ever existed. Same as before. But now something in her face had shifted, more flushed, more alive, and more like she hoped I wouldn't come back. I didn't want to look at her. I wanted to look at the glasses. I wanted to know who the second one belonged to. I wanted to believe it was just a coworker, or a friend, or nobody. But the moment I picked up my coat, I saw it. Her phone screen, lit up on the edge of a nearby table. A name glowing on it. A man's name I didn't recognize. And a message preview. Just 3 words. That was fun. I didn't touch it. I didn't say anything. I just walked out again. 6 minutes later, as I sat in my car with the keys in my lap, not starting the engine, my own phone buzzed. One message. From her. Please come back. I didn't open her message right away. Instead, I sat there with my fingers curled around the steering wheel like they belonged to someone else. The street outside the venue was quiet now. Most guests still inside, probably raising another toast, clinking glasses, laughing at the boss's second round of fake humility. It's funny how people pretend to be humble when the cake's the size of a coffin. I stared at the screen. Please come back. That was all it said. No punctuation. No emojis. Not even my name. I read it 10 times. I tried to hear her voice saying it. I tried to imagine her looking around and realizing I was gone, her chest tightening, her eyes scanning the room, guilt crawling in like smoke under a door. But a louder thought crept in. What if it wasn't guilt? What if it was panic? What if she was afraid I saw something I wasn't supposed to? I didn't want to be paranoid. God, I hate being paranoid. I've lived most of my life like a walking apology, second-guessing everything I feel, everything I think. I've trained myself to believe I'm always overreacting, that I'm too soft, too sensitive, that I read between lines that were never even written. But that message, it didn't feel like regret. It felt like control, like a leash tug. I unlocked my phone and typed out 3 different replies, then deleted all of them. First draft, why? Too passive. Second, are you okay? Too weak. Third, who's he? Too insane. I ended up sending nothing. Instead, I turned off the screen and just sat there, engine off, while the car slowly filled with the weight of every unfinished sentence I've ever swallowed. My brain began chewing on the details, things I hadn't processed fully until that moment. The dress. That cream-colored one she claimed was borrowed. I suddenly remembered she got a package 3 days ago. I asked what it was. She said it was toner for her printer. We don't own a printer. There was also the necklace she wore. Simple, silver, a tiny pendant I had never seen before. Not her usual style. She's into chunky jewelry, bold color. That one was dainty, delicate, like something picked with care. And the wine glass. That second wine glass. It wasn't just that it was full. It was that it was tilted, like someone had just set it down in a hurry. Like they didn't expect me to come back. Like maybe I wasn't supposed to. My hand hovered over the ignition. I could go back. Just walk in and pretend I forgot something else. My scarf. My keys. My dignity. But what would I even say? Hi. I saw your phone, and your wine, and your face, and now I don't know if you still love me, or if I've just been your silent backup plan this whole time. I looked at the message again. Please come back. The most terrifying part wasn't what she said. It was how much I still wanted to. I didn't go back inside. I drove around for a while instead, taking the long way through neighborhoods I didn't recognize. Streets lined with sleeping houses, porch lights flickering, windows glowing from the blue tint of late-night TV. I wasn't watching the road so much as letting it carry me somewhere that didn't require decisions. Every red light felt like a question I didn't want to answer. I kept hearing that message in my head. Not reading it, hearing it. But the voice wasn't hers. It was some eerie version of her voice I'd invented. A colder one. One that didn't really care if I came back. Only if I stayed gone long enough for something to finish. I eventually parked at a gas station near the edge of town, where the fluorescent lights buzzed like hornets overhead. I bought a bottled coffee I didn't want, stood there pretending to look at chewing gum for 5 full minutes while my thoughts collapsed in on themselves. I opened our text thread again. Her message was still there. No follow-up. No double text. No missed calls. She wasn't worried. She was waiting. And that scared me more than if she had been panicking. I thought about calling her bluff, just not replying. Disappearing for the night. Letting her sit in that rooftop bar and explain to her coworkers that her husband had just wandered off without warning, like some confused uncle at a wedding. I imagined her face trying to hold a smile while checking her phone every 3 minutes, wondering if maybe she'd pushed too far this time. But then a darker thought punched through. What if this wasn't the first time? What if I wasn't the first man to get a message like that? What if I wasn't even the only one tonight? That's when I remembered something. 2 weeks ago, she was sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone with this half-smile. She laughed softly at something, and when I asked what it was, she just said, "Oh, it's dumb, just a meme." I asked to see it. She said she'd already swiped past it. It didn't seem like a big deal at the time. But now, that laugh had sounded personal. Familiar. Like a laugh you save for someone who gets you. And I hadn't heard that laugh directed at me in. I honestly can't remember how long. Back in the car, I sat with my bottled coffee unopened in my lap and a feeling in my stomach like something important had already slipped past me, and I was only just realizing it. The worst part? I missed her. Even in the middle of all this, even surrounded by red flags waving like they were hosting a parade, I missed her. I missed how she used to flick her fingers against my knee when she was nervous. I missed how she'd steal my hoodie, even though she had 3 of her own. I missed her in a way that made no logical sense. I put the car in gear and started driving again. But this time, I wasn't sure if I was heading home or circling something I hadn't let myself admit yet. And somewhere behind all that confusion, behind the noise and the doubts and the flashbacks, a quiet, shameful little truth whispered through. If she asked me to come back again, I think I would. No questions. No conditions. Just yes. It was almost midnight when I finally pulled into the parking lot behind our building. I didn't decide to go home. I just ran out of places to circle. The city felt too big, too loud, too full of people who knew where they belonged. I sat in the car with the engine running for another 15 minutes, watching the lights flicker behind the kitchen curtain. She was home already. Somehow she'd gotten there before me. No missed calls. No, where are you? Not even a did you get my text? Just the curtain shifting once, like a breath. Then stillness. I took the stairs instead of the elevator. I didn't want to hear the hum, the mechanical chime, the awkward silence. Our hallway smelled like paint and someone's burnt dinner. My keys felt heavier than usual. Or maybe my hand was just slower. When I opened the door, everything looked too clean. The lights were on. One lamp in the living room. The TV was paused on the streaming home screen, where it suggests things you'd never watch, but somehow still click. And there, folded neatly on the arm of the couch, was my scarf. I hadn't taken a scarf to the party. I hadn't seen that scarf in over a year. It was gray with tiny navy stripes. I got it from her parents 2 Christmases ago and wore it once before it vanished. I assumed I'd lost it on the train or left it in some Uber. But now here it was, folded, smooth, placed like a message. I walked toward it slowly, like it might start talking. The room was quiet. Too quiet. No footsteps from the bedroom. No sound of her moving. No clinking of glass or brushing of teeth. I was being watched. I could feel it in the tips of my fingers, the back of my neck. That ancient animal sense, the one that tells you you're not really alone. "Marla," I said. Quiet. Too quiet. No answer. I picked up the scarf. It was warm. Freshly warm. Like someone had just folded it seconds before I came in. My hands trembled a little, not from fear exactly. From something worse. From realization. She hadn't just gotten home before me. She'd been here the whole time. I walked to the bedroom door. It was open just enough for me to see the edge of the bed. Her side. Neatly made. No dent in the pillow. My side, too, untouched. As if neither of us had been sleeping here lately. That's when I saw it. Her shoes, the cream ones she wore to the party, sitting inside the closet, heels perfectly aligned. That was normal for her. But something else wasn't. Her phone was plugged in, screen glowing faintly, sitting atop my folded pajama pants. She never touches my drawer. Ever. I walked closer, drawn to the phone like it had gravity. Like it might explain the wine glass, the message, the scarf, the silence. I didn't mean to look. I swear I didn't. But the screen was still lit. Notifications still visible. One new message. Not from me. Not from anyone I recognized. Just a number. No name. The preview said, "He doesn't know? You're a damn magician." I didn't touch anything. I stepped back. My chest was full of cold air. The bathroom door creaked open. She stepped out, wrapped in a towel, steam curling around her like a fog. "Oh," she said, surprised but not startled. "You're home." Just that. Like I'd come back from the grocery store. Like I hadn't vanished for hours. Like she hadn't left a breadcrumb trail of confusion and half-lies across the city. I wanted to ask her what the message meant. What the scarf was doing there. Why I felt like I was walking barefoot through a house that wasn't mine anymore. But I said nothing. She smiled, tilted her head, walked toward me slowly, and kissed my cheek like nothing had changed. Except everything had. And I think she knew it. The next morning, she made me eggs. Not just eggs, scrambled the way I like, soft and just a little underdone, with chopped parsley on top like she used to do before things got too complicated. She even set the table. 2 mugs, black coffee, toast stacked in a napkin-lined bowl. I hadn't seen her make breakfast since the first year of our marriage. That year when Sunday mornings felt like a secret between us, when we used to laugh at how bad I was at cracking eggs without getting shell in the pan. Now she stood there barefoot in one of my old t-shirts, humming softly, like we hadn't been strangers 12 hours ago. Like she hadn't ignored me at a rooftop party, and like I hadn't found a message that made my stomach fold in on itself. She smiled as she poured orange juice. "I thought we could eat together before work. We haven't done that in a while." I nodded. My mouth was dry. The smell of eggs made my throat close. But I sat down. The silence between us wasn't cold. It was worse. It was warm and gentle and wrong. The kind of silence that pretends it means peace, but actually means don't ask. And I didn't. Because I'm a coward. I know that now. She passed me the salt without me asking. Another old habit. Another memory she was resurrecting like nothing had changed. I wondered, for a second, if I had imagined the text. If maybe I'd misunderstood it. Maybe magician meant something innocent. Maybe it was an inside joke. Maybe I was the problem again. I reached for my phone under the table. The message was gone. Deleted. Not archived. Not hidden. Gone. Not just that one, but the entire thread from that number. Nothing in her deleted folder either. I checked when she got up to grab more napkins. And yes, I know how that sounds. Snooping. Creepy. But I had to know if it was real. Because if it wasn't, then what was I even doing? She sat back down across from me, legs tucked under the chair, chewing like a movie version of a happy wife. Her eyes locked onto mine once, and I swear, just for a second, I saw something. Not guilt. Not fear. Something closer to calculation. Like she was studying me. Taking notes. Checking to see if I'd broken yet. "I've been thinking," she said casually, "we should do a weekend trip. Just the 2 of us. Get out of the city. Maybe the cabin?" The cabin. The one we hadn't been to in over a year. The one with the fireplace that never worked and the uneven deck that creaked like it had secrets. We'd spent one anniversary there, in the early days, when love was still messy and loud and full of apologies we didn't mind saying. "Sure," I replied, trying to keep my voice level. "That sounds nice." She reached across the table and touched my hand. Just 2 fingers, a gentle press. "I miss this," she whispered. I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to. But my eyes drifted down to her wrist, and I noticed something I hadn't seen the night before. A faint red mark on the inside of it. A pressure mark. The kind you get from a watch or a hand. It was fresh. Not quite a bruise. But not nothing. I didn't say a word. I just looked back at my eggs and kept chewing, even though every bite felt like swallowing sand. Because I needed time. Because something in me had finally shifted. And for once, I wasn't going to confront her, not yet. I was going to watch, just like she was watching me. It started with a noise. A tiny, meaningless noise. Like most mistakes do. It was Tuesday night, and she'd fallen asleep early on the couch, curled under the throw blanket she used to keep folded for guests, but now claimed as her own. Some cooking show droned in the background, a British woman arguing about soufflés. The remote was on the floor, abandoned. Marla's phone was on the coffee table, screen down, breathing softly every few seconds with notifications she hadn't bothered to check. Then it buzzed. Twice. A low hum against the glass. She didn't move. And that was the moment. Not because I wanted to invade her privacy. Not because I had some plan. But because curiosity is a drug. And trust, once cracked, becomes an addiction to doubt. I slid my hand toward the phone without a sound. Carefully. Slowly. Like I was disarming a bomb I wasn't trained to handle. I turned it over and pressed my thumb to the screen. It didn't unlock. Of course it didn't. She changed the fingerprint access months ago, claimed it was a work policy. I didn't argue then. I do now. The screen flashed with the messages anyway. 2 previews. Same number from before, the one with no name. First message. Can you talk? Second message. Did he notice anything? My fingers went cold. It wasn't a punch. It wasn't an explosion. It was worse, a quiet collapse inside my chest, like a building giving out floor by floor. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I just looked at her. Sleeping. Peacefully. Fake. Or just tired. I couldn't tell anymore. That's what scared me. I wanted to scream. I wanted to shake her awake and ask 1,000 questions I didn't want answers to. But instead, I sat back on the floor, leaned against the wall, and stared at the dark TV screen until I could see my reflection in it. I looked like someone else. Someone weak. Someone breakable. Eventually, I got up, walked to the kitchen, and opened her purse. She keeps it on the hook by the fridge. Same place every day. I didn't rummage. I didn't tear through it like a movie scene. I just opened it and looked. Inside, a charger, 2 receipts, a business card for a restaurant we've never been to, and a folded napkin with handwriting on it. 2 words. Slanted. Small. Southbound Motel. I held it like it might burn through my skin. That name meant nothing to me, but I knew how to find out more. I opened my laptop in the bedroom, closed the door, and searched. It's real. 32 minutes away. Highway exit just past the industrial park. No website. No photos. Just a phone number and an address. 1 review on a travel forum from 2019. Cheap. Weird smell. Cash only. Bring your own soap. I sat there for hours after that, staring at the map, zooming in and out until the roads blurred. She never mentioned it. Never drove that direction. Not that I knew of. And yet the napkin existed. She stirred once on the couch. I heard her shift and yawn. When I peeked out again, she was sitting up, rubbing her eyes. You coming to bed? She asked sleepily. I nodded. But I didn't move right away. Because something had just shifted in me again. Something irreversible. And this time, it wasn't fear. It was resolve. I waited until Thursday. Not because I had a plan, or even an excuse. But because I needed time to believe I wasn't insane. I needed to know that I wasn't just folding shadows into monsters or misreading silence as betrayal. I watched her for 2 more days. Not like a detective. Not like a man out for vengeance. No, like a man watching a crack form in his ceiling and pretending it's just the paint. Marla was perfect. Too perfect. She asked how my day was. She cooked again. She laughed at a joke I barely told. She even suggested we start watching that show we abandoned last spring. The one with the astronauts and the therapist. It felt like she was stitching up something between us that I hadn't realized had already bled out. But I couldn't pretend anymore. Not after the napkin. Not after the message. And especially not after Tuesday night, when I noticed something that confirmed what I didn't want to admit. She left her phone charging in the kitchen again. I was doing dishes. Nothing suspicious. Nothing deliberate. But when it buzzed, and she didn't flinch, I realized she had changed the text preview settings. The messages no longer appeared on the lock screen. She was hiding things in plain sight. So on Thursday night, I left. I told her I was meeting an old coworker. Chris. He doesn't exist. I said we were grabbing drinks downtown, said I might be late. She nodded from behind her laptop and said, "Tell him I said hi." And just like that, I was free. I didn't drive straight to the southbound motel. I circled for a while. I nearly turned around twice. My hands were sweaty on the wheel. The whole thing felt stupid, like I was chasing ghosts into rooms that didn't belong to me. But I couldn't stop. 32 minutes later, I pulled into the gravel lot. There were 5 cars. All of them old. 1 pickup truck, 2 beaters, a minivan with a broken taillight, and a red sedan that looked oddly familiar. No security cameras. No reception desk. Just a buzzer by the side window and a handwritten note taped inside the glass that read, "Ring. Manager will come." I didn't ring. I walked around instead, slow, casual, heart beating so hard I thought it might bruise my ribs. 12 rooms. 6 lights on. Curtains pulled tight. And then, room 9. The curtain was open an inch. Just enough to see light. Just enough to see movement. I stood there in the dark, outside the glow of the buzzing lamppost, and stared at that inch of truth. I didn't know what I was looking for. I didn't know what I expected. But then I saw it. A shape. Not her. Someone else. A man, maybe. He passed by the window too fast to be sure. Tall. Lean. Jacket still on. A flash of profile. That's all. My hands shook. I stepped back. And then, the door opened. Room 9. Not all the way. Just a sliver. Someone stepped out. Not the man. Her. Marla. Hair tied back. Same cream coat from the party. Purse on her shoulder. Calm. Beautiful. Like she'd just stepped out of a spa, not a cheap room off the highway. She didn't see me. She walked to the red sedan. Got in. Drove off. No kiss goodbye. No look back. No evidence of anything, except her. I stood there in the dark long after the taillights disappeared, breathing through my teeth, trying to convince myself I hadn't just watched my marriage peel off like old wallpaper in a motel hallway. I didn't go home right away. I drove behind her at a distance, just to see where she went. She took the long route, looped back toward the city, parked at a gas station, bought something, then arrived home 10 minutes after I did, like she'd just left yoga. She smiled when she walked in. "Oh, you beat me home," she said, setting her keys down. And I smiled back, because the game had changed, and I wasn't playing defense anymore. She never confessed. Not directly. There was no dramatic confrontation. No slamming doors, no screaming match in the kitchen. That's not how it works when someone's carefully rewritten the truth to fit the story they want to keep living. Marla didn't admit to room 9. She didn't explain the napkin, the message, the scarf, the silence, or the perfect scrambled eggs. But I didn't need her to, because on Friday morning, something changed. It started small. She kissed me on the forehead before leaving for work, a gesture that felt too choreographed, too soft. Then she turned back at the door and said, "I love you, you know." And I smiled. I said it back. But this time, I didn't feel it echo. There was just stillness in the space where those words usually landed. A silence that no longer hurt. Just confirmed something I'd been circling for weeks. I was done searching for proof. I already had what I needed. It wasn't rage that hit me. It wasn't grief. It was clarity. That kind of rare, piercing stillness that follows a storm when the wreckage is visible and nothing's left to pretend about. So that day, I did something I never thought I would. I took the day off work. I packed a small bag. Just essentials, a couple shirts, my laptop, a book I'd started 3 times and never finished. I left my ring on the bathroom counter, not out of spite, but because I didn't want to carry something that didn't mean what it used to. I wrote her a letter. Not long. Just honest. "You're good at magic. But I finally stopped watching the trick. And I don't hate you for it. I just want something real. I think you used to want that too. Maybe someday you will again. But I can't stay still in the illusion anymore." I didn't tell her where I was going, because I wasn't sure myself. I drove north, past the city limits, past the rust-colored exit signs and the fading gas stations, past everything familiar. No destination, just a direction. Somewhere near dusk, I pulled over at a little overlook on a hill I didn't know existed. The sky was cracked open with sunset, deep golds and bruised blues bleeding into one another like they forgot how to be separate. And I breathed, really breathed, for the first time in what felt like years. Not because I was healed, not because the pain vanished, but because I'd made a choice. Not to fix her, not to get even, not to hold on tighter to something that only wanted to slip away, but to walk forward. And as the last light dipped behind the horizon, I sat on the hood of my car, sipping gas station coffee, watching the sky peel itself into stars, and I realized something I never thought I'd say. I wasn't alone. Not really. I had myself. And finally, that felt like enough.